Welcome back to Coffee Insanity. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Artisan and some of the functions and the setup that I use. Here's a roast that we're going to use right here, the Guatemala chicken. So let's take a look at some of how I set everything up. This button up here is the roast. You go to Properties, and you can see I typed in this name right here, the Guatemala chicken. It shows up right here on top. So whatever you type in the title will show up right here. So for me, I like the name of it, what type of roast suggestion, what type of process, and the elevation, and how many ounces that I roast it at. Okay, also it does the date automatically for you, which is pretty nice. You can enter a bunch of other things right here, which I don't do. And also under roast properties there's notes, which is pretty nice. Here are my notes that I took during the roast. I usually write these on paper, and then after the roast I'll go ahead and write them down right here. Cupping notes, so after you taste it you can write down what the coffee tastes like, which is really nice because it's hard to remember everything. The events, right here you can go ahead and put events. You could do it during the roast or after the roast. For this one I did it after the roast with my notes. For example, I put a P5 right here for this event, meaning that I'm doing a P5 manual roast starting off, and at about 4 minutes I did P4, dropped it down, so here it is at 4 minutes, and I brought it back up right here, P5 at about 7 minutes to about 8 minutes. That's when that fan kicks on, and you can see with the roar that it drops down a little bit right here, and the temperature drops down as well. So I was just trying to keep that roar more steady right here. Still having a hard time doing that. And later on in the roast, you can see I drop it down to a P3 about 1 minute into the first crack right here. So that way if I want to replicate this roast, I can look at my notes. I know exactly where I drop the temperature, increase the temperature, and it'd be much easier to duplicate. So it's really handy. It's nice. Record everything that you want here. Speaking of duplicating a roast, if you want to, you can go to roast and you can go to background, and you can load any background that you want to. So here's some right here that I can choose from. If I wanted to go ahead and put a different background, if I wanted one that I did from Brazil, well, maybe I don't have any from Brazil, Costa Rica. So if I wanted to load some of these that I've done from Costa Rica, I just go ahead and click on it and open, and it will show me an image of it right here. Okay, it won't be as bright, it'll be like faded. So that way when you're doing the roast, you can see if it's going a little bit too slow, you can increase the temp to try to bring it back on, or vice versa. If it's too hot, you can go down and drop it down to P4 to try to get it to stabilize and get it right on that line, so you can duplicate your roast. It's pretty nice. Alright, let's check out the config button. Under config, I don't have a machine. I'm using the Behmor, the device. Okay, here's my device, my multimeter, my Mastech. Okay, so here's the meter. So if you click on it, they have some built-in ones, but here's mine that I'm using. So that way the machine can talk to each other. I don't have any of these other things right here, any extra devices, so this is the only thing that I use right here. I have these boxes checked. Most of the stuff was this is how it came. I don't know any of these things, so I'm pretty sure that's just the way it came. Okay, so let's look at config, serial port, and this is again, this is where the USB port, where your multimeter is plugged in. So this is port number 3, so that's important as well. You need to make sure that it's connected to the right port. You tell it which one to go to, and it just recognizes it. Well, mine did. So if I went, it didn't even give me options. It just saw it, but column 3. Um, and these, again, I didn't do any of these. These were just done for me. Extra, these things. Again, these are all just standard stuff that when I installed the software, all this stuff just came this way. So I didn't do any of these things. I don't really know what they do. So that's what mine's set up to be like. And okay, these ones, when you click them, it'll show like different things, like reading. That'll show up now on the side right here. Okay, if I'm not doing a roast, this is an old roast. And if I go back and I click it, it'll take it off. And same with buttons. I was experimenting with buttons. I wanted to make it so I could just, during the roast, I could click like P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, and it would just show up somehow, but it doesn't seem to. So if anyone knows how to do that, where it just, instead of having E, it would actually say like P1 or a P5, that would be really cool, that I could just have a button to click and it just automatically does it for you. I wish I could figure that out. I'm trying to. So let's do that. Config. Events. So here's the big one. Okay, for auto charge, I don't like the auto charge. I think with a Behmor, in the beginning I had it like with the auto charge click, so it would do it automatically and it wouldn't do it correctly. Sometimes it would mess it up. So I like to actually do it. So after I put in the beans and basically get the beans going where it's in the drum and is rolling, that's when I click the charge button. And I have the auto drop clicked. I have the charge. I have the dry end. I have the first crack end. I never really get into the second crack. I'm not big into the dark roast, so I don't click those. If you want those buttons to show up down below, you would click these and the drop button. So the drop I have automatically do it, so I like the auto drop. That way I don't have to worry about clicking it. It just senses when the temperature starts dropping down and it'll do it automatically. So I do like having that one automatically. The rest I do manually. I click it myself, which I like to do. Okay, so these events right here, the charge, the dry end, first crack start, first crack end, and the drop, they won't show up until you actually do a roast, until you hit the start button. So like this, if you hit start, you will see them down below. So here they are, the charge, dry end, FC start, FC end, and the drop. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. So let's get back to the Guatemala chicken. And here's all my buttons and stuff clicked. Again, these came, I could probably unclick these. I'll have to try that because none of that applies to me. See, buttons, that's where I set up the P1 through P5, but again, it doesn't seem to work. I think these are for when your computer is controlling your actual roaster. There's not sliders, no sliders, none of that stuff. I don't use any of these things that I know of. Okay, so config, got alarms. Oh, one thing I'm gonna try, which I thought was pretty cool, I need to put in the time. I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to, in which that it gives me an alarm to say, hey, you're gonna have to push the start button on the Behmor, so that way it doesn't go into the automatic cool, the safety mode. So I thought that would be pretty cool to try. So I'm gonna try that on my next roast and see how it goes. So you can just type in the time that you want for the alarm to go off, and it'll hopefully make a beeping sound and tell me on the screen, hey, push the start button. So that way it doesn't automatically go into the cool mode. Let's see, anything else? I don't do any, axes. Oops, axes. So this is again where I have, I think, this one I want, yeah. Okay, so here's 100, so I have it set to 100 here, all the way up to 500, so you can change that based on what you like. And on the other side, 0 to 50, you can change that as well, depending on what you like. And so these are my settings right here for the axes. And I think that's it for all I use for config. I don't use any tools, so I think they have a calculator. Probably do some things with that. So this is Artisan, and it's pretty handy. If you're not using Artisan, I highly recommend that you start using it.